Permission to record also, Charles.
Okay.
Okay, and we are VP Mia, press ace. Good afternoon, everyone.
Live. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Permission to record.
Sorry. Yes, we're live. Maybe let's give everyone a few more minutes before we start.
Okay, VP
But
Mia.
good afternoon, everyone. Hi, VP Sheila. Hi, Press Ace.
It's a rainy Friday afternoon when it was so hot a while ago.
Yes. Good afternoon to
The rains were worse yesterday.
Press Ace. Yes, good
No, I was
afternoon
just
sa
saying.
mga maagang nag-join. We have AJ. AJ, hello, good afternoon. Lorenzo Anda. We also have Marlon and Jimmy. Oy, si Mr. Chair is watching us live from Facebook. Hi, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon.
Mr. Chair says, hello, Charles Lim.
Hello.
Yeah, he
It's
says
been a
he's
while.
because he has a meeting until 7. So I think he's doubling, Facebook streaming, watching us live.
Yeah. I just realized, Press Ace, VP Sheila, that next week it's already June. So
Yes.
we're entering the 6th month of the year. How time
Yeah,
flies.
can you believe it? It's almost, no?
Yeah. And just like
And
that, we're
Christmas
halfway
time
through the
again.
year. Yeah.
Yes.
And soon is Christmas. Yeah.
VP Alex is also watching us.
Hi, VP Alex.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Mike Angelo Matrido. Good afternoon. We have someone, I think it's the first time. I don't know if that's a he or a she, but the name is Aunt Zoff. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Myla. Good afternoon.
Of course, we have Miss Chris Razon. Hello.
Hi, Chris. I miss you.
Okay, VP Mia, would you like to start?
Yes, we can start. Good afternoon, mga ka-Pix Pro. So today, we have with us Press Ace and VP Sheila. Press Ace, you want to say something first?
Sure. We're happy to be back after a 1-week absence. Last week, as we all know, we skipped our Kwentuhang Cybersecurity last Friday because we had to make way for a very important training session. As you very well know, PIX Pro's advocacy is really not just to raise the awareness of the Philippine society on cybersecurity, but also to actually capacitate and train our fellow Filipinos to have cybersecurity skills at various levels so that they will be competitive in that industry or in that field. So we have to do, or we have to cater to both those responsibilities. But as of today, we're back to our usual mode, and that's a public service program. We have Kwentuhang Cybersecurity now running on its 2nd year. Okay, so we're happy to tell everyone that we have all the way from abroad speakers today to tell us about a very important topic. And it's fundamental, I must say, no? It's fundamental to the concept of cybersecurity. Because as we very well know, we need to secure not just a user, not just a device, not just a process, not just an application, but many others that whoever connects to the internet or whoever interconnects among the network or devices, we need to know who we are talking to on the other line. So that basically is the gist of where we're heading to in terms of our discussion this afternoon. And it's one way to secure your identity in cyberspace. And one of that is what the speaker today will be talking about. But of course, I won't get ahead of the speaker. We'll have him talk about that more. So I turn over the floor to you, back Sheila and VP.
Thank you, Press Ace. You talked about improving earlier, Press Ace. No, I just want to make mention. No, the Zoom backgrounds that we have, it's improving as well. We continue to improve. So now it's I think it's video already. Okay, let me introduce first Charles Lim. Charles Lim is the commercial director for APJ at Securid. Prior to his current role, he has been managing the RSA business for South Asia and Greater China. Charles has been in the security and technology industry for almost 20 years and is responsible for driving enterprise sales, business development, channels, and operations within all the markets across the South Asia region. More recently, Australia and New Zealand for commercial. He has a deep understanding of the needs of customers and partners, spending the initial years in RSA, directing sales, channels, and operations for RSA in South Asia. Charles is instrumental in grooming and driving RSA partners to focus and increase their revenue pipeline with RSA solutions. Now, prior to joining RSA, Charles also held regional sales and business development positions at prominent multinational corporations, including Symantec and HP. Now, while at HP, he was also a certified practitioner for Gartner TCO consulting services and helped customers navigate and achieve both financial and business outsourcing objectives. In addition to this, Charles has more than 10 years of experience working with e-government infrastructure implementation projects in Asia and the Middle East. VP Sheila, you want to introduce Xavier?
Yes, thank you, VP Mia. And to mention as well, no, Charles was my former manager when I was doing the whole business of RSA for Philippines, and he's a very good mentor and the best drinker. So that's why Mr. Chairman knows him very well. Okay, so
That's supposed to be top secret, Sheila.
it's an industry open secret.
Okay. It's secret, but it's open.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so we have our system engineer from Securid. He looks very young. I think very fresh from college, but I'm reading his profile now. I think he is good background, and I'm pretty sure he's very knowledgeable when it comes to this topic. So the biography of Mr. Xavier 𝐶𝐬, he's a systems engineer at Securid, which is an RSA business. His role covers pre-sales consulting for the identity and access management business in the Asia Pacific regions. Prior to his current role, Xavier has been a cybersecurity engineer for SIEM Solutions. He has over 4 years of working in the cybersecurity industry with experiences in handling IT troubleshooting, conducting technical demonstrations, and proof of concepts for organizations of all sizes in both public and private sectors. So with no further ado, I give the floor to Charles and Xavier.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both VPs and especially the President Ace for introducing the topic itself. And I think what's more important is the topic itself our Press Ace alluded to, right? Today, all of us, like it or not, have some form of digital identity. And And it's increasingly so as we use these digital identities to log into multiple different services and even e-government services that we have. And what's fundamental of all cybersecurity, and I would say, even if for people that's familiar with things like zero trust, which is a very popular topic, that's for another day. The digital identities and securing identities, it's fundamental, like Press is mentioned, right, to everything that you do in cybersecurity. So even if you're not in the cybersecurity industry, and even if you're not a practitioner, I think some of these fundamentals are important and are deeply rooted even in your daily lives, right? How many of you have heard friends whose WhatsApp was taken over, right, by a scammer or a phisher, and then he went on and scam a few other people, right? Multiple instances. How many of you have also recently heard that people have made bank transfers to scammers impersonating either a bank or a financial institution, right? So again, fundamental to this all is it's digital identity and how you protect your identity, and look out for what you authenticate against, right? And who you grant access to your identities. So what 𝐤𝐵 is going to cover off today is some basic fundamentals of identity and access management. We're going to go through the very basics, and we're going to go through some of the new and modern stuff and give you our point of views as well. So I'm going to hand the floor over to 𝐤𝐵. 𝐤𝐵, over to you.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks, Sheila. Thanks, Mia. Thanks, PixPro, for this opportunity. Without further ado, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about, is today's MFA enough to secure your cyber identities, right? As Charles mentioned, I'm sure this is a Facebook Live. We all seen our Facebook friends' account got stolen, or they're just starting to spread random weird links. So let's get deep dive into why are these things always happen. Because first thing first, we use something called basic authentications. Well, quoting from Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning. Basic authentication usually just means that you use a combination of a clear text username and perhaps hash password, and you use these two. It will verify into the system. The system will say, hey, if it's correct, we grant you access. If it's not correct, we deny you access. So with this basic authentication, what's the problem, right? Well, password is the problem. According to a very fresh out of the oven report, DBIR stands for Data Breach Investigation Report. It's from Verizon. Actually, this report specifically just released like 3 days ago on May 24th. And it has 108 pages, so let's TLDR it. It boils down to the breaches that involve human element actually is 82% dominating the actual entire cybersecurity world. And look at the chart below, from 40% to 50% are actually caused by use of stolen credentials. That just spell out that you think your password is very secure, but it is not. So that is where we introduce something called MFA, Multifactor Authentications. Right, so MFA basically, it is an authentication method that on top of your fundamental, like something like that your password or your username, we add a few more layers to it. That's why we have multi-factor, more layers, more factors. So right now, we add something you have. It's like your mobile phone, your trusted phones, or a token that was given to you by a bank, by your employer, and something you are. That something you are is indeed who you are, and only yourself has the unique of it. So it's like biometrics, fingerprints or Face ID. And of course, there are wide ranges of them, including using a QR code. You scan a QR code from your trusted devices, and that QR code is generated every like 30-60 seconds. Push to approve, it's also another like 30 to 60 second kind of prompt that you have to satisfy it. So let's take a look at how MFA works here. Right, so you have something which is your username and password. Something you have is just your mobile phone with our Securid app as an example. And something you are, in this scenario, I'm gonna just use a biometrics like a fingerprint or a push. And then you have to satisfy each and every single component before you can access to the protected resources. The protected resources over here, I mean by perhaps your company's laptop, your VPN access, or even for a user, because you're in Facebook Live, your user on Facebook account. When you use your Facebook, remember always to turn on your MFA. Do not leave it just using basic authentication, because Verizon says like 82% are caused by human, and major factor of it is actually using stolen credentials. So always turn on your MFA. And if the attacker somehow managed to get your username, get hold of your trusted devices, but without your biometrics, they still can't access to your protected resources. Over here, you can see even your username and password got hijacked. It's fine. It's not fine, but it is not that serious. You still have to change your password, but at least they don't compromise your account. Okay, so the golden rule of thumb here is zero trust fundamental. Trust no one. Always, always, always verify, because using just your username and password is never enough. Never, never. Quoting Greatest Showman, right? So right now we have our MFA implemented in your solutions, in your Facebook account, in your personal life, social media, or any of your banking app. Are you safe now? Not really. We still hear a lot of MFA attacks, especially during the recent time in 2022 or in the earlier of this year. We hear so many different attacks that is being using MFA to like compromise accounts. So does it mean that your MFA is no longer effective? Well, no, MFA is still effective. So what truly happens? Let's look at one of the big issue that even CISA, Cybersecurity Agency of, well, I'll say that name again later, but yeah, Print Nightmare. Well, never fail open. According to Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA from United States, it states that Russian state-sponsored cyber attack took advantage of a misconfigured account and set to default MFA protocol. So from this statement, you can tell it is not a single point of failure or single vulnerability that is being used to exploit and gain access to compromise the system. So let's have a talk at Print Nightmare. Print Nightmare is a vulnerability that actually allows attacker to elevate themselves or privilege escalate themselves to obtain an admin right. And in this specific issues, in these specific threats or cyber actors that took advantage of these incidents, first, the attacker gained initial access by brute forcing into an orphanage account. An orphanage account in this scenario means that it is an account, it is inactive, but still valid. Perhaps a good example would be someone that left your company, but the AD account or the user account was not deleted, so it is still valid. And the attacker basically just get hold of this account using a brute force. And as they state, it is a simple, predictable password. So hey, again, it's password fault, right? User credential is always the weak point. And then, since you got the username and password, the second point of failure or the vulnerability portion is the attacker re-enroll the account with MFA as of the original user itself. Because the MFA solution they are using did not configure any policy to further protect any mobile enrollment, hence that become a second point of vulnerability. So after the attacker got the account username and password, enrolled himself in an MFA, of course, the attacker is gonna log into one of the system, right? Because he already got the MFA. Right after he got into the account, he or she or they exploit the vulnerability using Print Nightmare to get ID access or domain admin access to their central repository for all the identity source, which is Active Directory. And then this is the strongest point where I mentioned that in our title, never fail open, because by changing the configuration of the MFA server to make it not reachable, and because this MFA solution using a default policy for no fail open, and in this scenario, fail open means that whenever you can't connect to the MFA server, you fall back to using password only as the authentication method. So regardless of how sophisticated your MFA solution is, as soon as you can't reach the MFA server, everything falls back into password. Hence, the consequences of this is it stops MFA to challenge to everyone. And at this point, as you can imagine, the attacker get the admin access for the identity source or Active Directory, and no user required to be subsequently challenged by MFA anymore. The attacker can go wild and do whatever they want. They can simply add more users without worrying MFA. They can wander around the network lateral movement to do whatever they want to, snoop on email's account, look at all your files that he wants to. And that is why this attack happens. And according to CISA, they say that we should enforce MFA for all users, always verified, trust no one, with no exceptions, and ensure it is properly configured to protect against fail open. So, as an IT admin or as a user yourself, what should you do? To begin with, use a strong password, or even better, use a passphrase. I will cover a bit more on password, passphrase later on. And as a company, always review your policy. Make sure that it is always fail close. Fail close means that whenever there is disruptions between your MFS solutions to all your servers, you still will challenge the user using any alternative emergency methods. It's just that you won't go back to just using password. Or worst case, just block off all the access and ask the user to contact your admin to unlock their account instead of just letting everything to fail open. Okay, require MFA for mobile enrollment. If a user, a new joiner wants to register themselves into the system or the MFA solutions, challenge them with enrollment challenge, like using SMS. So instead of allowing them just putting username and password, send an OTP to their SMS, ask them to enter, make sure it is who they are before letting them to enroll a new one. Like always, again, emphasizing this again, trust no one, always verify. And of course, implement lockout or timeout features to protect against brute force. So timeout is like your push to approve prompt or biometric prompts only valid for like a good 30 or 60 seconds. And if they fail for more than like 3 times, 5 times, depends on your company policy, you can configure these options and lock the user out for either a certain period of time or just lock the user out and ask the user to contact your admin. And one crucial point of what happens there, which is the first step, is the attacker actually gain access to an orphanage account. So in order to counter that, use something like a lifecycle management to handle all the joiner, mover, leaver, like Securid's GNL, governance and lifecycle. So joiner, mover, leaver means that when a new joiner joins the company, this system, our GNL, should automatically help you to make sure your new joiner get all the permission or access or authorizations he or she needs, just enough to perform his job, because zero trust. We just give enough for them to do their job, nothing further, nothing more. And for mover, perhaps in this company, someone from Department A wants to join Department B, and the moment on that cutoff date they join, the system will automatically help you to make sure this user or their Department A's access will be removed and the Department B will be gained. And of course, last but not least, leaver. Leaver means that when someone leaves the company, the moment they leave, all the access should be totally revoked, right? And some general understanding, always monitor continuously for all the suspicious logs, and then implement a security alerting system. Because I was a SIEM engineer previously, you can use a lot of SIEM solutions like RSA Net Witness, Splunk, Elastic, a lot of different solutions out there that can help you to monitor the logs and also create alerting. The moment they spot anything weird, they should immediately alert your SOC team or your security team. And then, last but not least, again, patch your system, patch your mobile phone, patch your Windows, patch everything early, and patch very often. So that is the print nightmare portions. That is also more towards a company perspective. So let's look at the next attack. This is also very interesting. It's called Mfa Fatigue. And fatigue means that an overload of something that will make you start to be numb and insensitive towards it. So this is actually something very new. It's a new threat arise. Actually, you can read a lot of things of them are actually published in like 2022 or late 2021. So in this scenario, the attacker will compromise the user credential through cybersecurity campaigns. Cybersecurity campaign could means like info stealer malware that is being distributed to your mobile phone, to your computer through like free or cracked software. Attacker then manually or automatically tries to log into your victim's account repeatedly. So this is a scary portion because when I say MFA fatigue, it does not mean that the attacker one shot just spam you 1000 MFA. They could do so like one day they just push one or two to make you totally numb across like a month or a year, so that all they are waiting for is just you accidentally click once. And because they are just keep on doing this, perhaps like once a day throughout the year, and this you will overload the notification and prompt where MFA makes you fatigue. And all the attacker subsequently need is just your one fatigue approve. And then that's it. You are hacked. Your account is compromised. And then after they got hold of your account, they can do a lot of different things like establishing footholds, opening a backdoor, installing more malware to make sure that they steal all your information. They can use something like Print Nightmare again to privilege, escalate themselves to be the admin, and again gain more access to it, which causes them to lateral move from one device to perhaps you connect your mobile phone to a laptop, they can jump to your laptop, and then you connect your laptop to your company, they can jump to your company, etc. And also ultimately data collection causing harm or selling your information for their own financial goal, which none of this is good. So how do we protect ourselves against this? As a user, let's talk about user. Whenever you receive an MFA prompt that you did not initiate, like out of nowhere, you see that Facebook say, someone tries to log into your account. What you need to do is stop. Don't not do anything. Deny that request. And of course, in this scenario, I'm gonna mention more about how a company should look like. So if you are a user, you receive a notifications or MFA prompts from your company also saying that please push to approve to log into this device, which you did not initiate. Stop, change your credential immediately, reject that prompt, go to your setting, change the credential to something strong, password, passphrase, and then collect the evidence. Start collecting logs. I'm gonna take Securid app for example. You can take down the precise time and of occurrence like date, hour, minute, if possible down to second. This will help your admin to track down all the issues. Collect logs from your MFA app. You can do this through like again, for example, Security app. You just have to go top right, click on send logs. You can obtain the logs. Report to your IT admin immediately, and then wait for them to come back to tell you what do you need to do. And as an IT admin, as for prevention, always configure and review your MFA authenticator or authentication or your solutions to ensure timeout and logout policy is there, just like I mentioned in the few slides earlier. Also, ensure that your MFA solutions have machine learning risk-based authentication capabilities that validate each and every single authentication request. And when your authentication seems weird, like it matches some sort of known attack pattern, you will require to step up MFA challenge for a higher assurance. For example, if the system detects, hey, this is weird because you are logging in from Malaysia 1 minute ago, now you're trying to log in from United States, it is impossible travel. So the system will then challenge you to step up authentication. Just like, how come this user every day have like more than 10 MFA challenge that is failed? So this user is risky. So instead of I'm just gonna give you a simple push to approve authentication, I will ask you to do a push then you will have to put in a biometrics after that just to make sure you are who you are, right? And as for action, whenever your employee, your users, your normal users, your end users report to you that, hey, I received an MFA prompt that I did not initiate, then what you need to do is ensure the user change their credential to something strong, password, passphrase. Collect evidence, and this time, because it's IT admin, you have to collect evidence from the user, consolidate them, access to your solutions. Usually it's on-prem or on cloud. You can always get the list of logs or audit logs of these specific users' authentication, and then raise a case with your MFS solution so that they can establish a forensic investigations. So with that, hopefully you don't accidentally click on any MFA prompts that you did not approve or did not initiate, right? So after I talk about two scenarios of the very recent cyber attack that related or that make use of our MFA, it kind of all have the same patterns, right? The first single point of failure is, weak credentials, stolen credentials. So yet again, it is password's fault. Whenever we talk about password, everyone will tell you to use the combination of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, change the password very frequently, use a different password for every account. Is that secure enough? Actually, according to FBI, United States, they states that quite recently in May 2021, 1 year ago, instead of using a short and complex password, use a passphrase that combine multiple words and are longer than 15 characters. They use the example of Tech Tuesday 2021 strengthen. So let's dump password. Use passphrase instead. Use the combination of words with uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. For example, this is something I just put up randomly, 2022, lavender is my favorite cake, me likey. And just compare to something like P alias dollar, lowercase p, HR alias S3 exclamation. A passphrase is so much more easier to remember, and it is so much more longer, and yet the complexity is still there. So change your password to passphrase frequently. Use different passphrase for every account. And that will bring us to another problems. If you were to do like this, like change every passphrase for every account, average, we're gonna have like what, more than 20 accounts, right? Just for work or social media, like just social media, we already have like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, which is Google account. Already have 3. And if you have like Snapchat, you have even more. So why not, in our work environment and a company setup, remove the password totally. So you can access to your Git, you can access to your Salesforce, and all of them following best practices, you should use different password. So why not we just remove them totally, right? Because there's just so many passphrases to remember. So let's just stop signing on and on with a single sign-on. A single sign-on, for example, I'm taking Securid as an example. You can see that in this single sign-on portal that is hosted by us, you will see AWS, Workday, Slack, Twitter, Jira, Salesforce, or Git. They are all within one single portal. And this portal is protected by an intelligent risk engine. What this means is we have our risk-based authentication that works with this single sign-on portal to enhance user experience by requiring user to step up to another factor only when their risk is either a high-risk user using our machine learning if he matches those known pattern, else it will just require them to be challenged with a low risk. Perhaps just a push approve can go into this specific portal. But let's say he joined this portal, he go into this portal, and he want to access something that is quite severe, like Salesforce is all about number, right? You can then request them to step up authentication. It is fully governance driven. You can fully configure it to be whatever you want in your organization, how you want to challenge the user. And again, because all of them is integrated into one single portal, they just have to log into this portal and get challenged by different level of authentications with MFA, then they can access all of these with just one single password. And the benefit here is you log in everywhere with just one single identity that is heavily protected by different level of MFA as well as an intelligent risk engine. And then it is policy driven, like I mentioned. You can, as an admin or as your company, you can fully 100% configure or decide what you want to challenge the user. And all this risk-based authentication decision is made in real time with our machine learning engine behind. And Securid, we have more than 600 and tested certified technology integrations that make you, when you want to integrate any solutions into our solutions, it'll be very easy to populate with all these applications because we out of box supported a lot of, or up to 600 technologies integrating. Yep. So we have our single sign-on portal and we still have password over here. Although it's just one, but we still have, well, the new era of authentication is actually passwordless. So farewell to password because it is still leading reason for breaches, as on the first slide already talked about it. So passwordless, you can use something called FIDO token or QR code using a mobile app, a trusted devices mobile app like Securid. You scan the QR code that is being prompted on your single sign-on portal. You got access to your Windows, your Mac, or even the single sign-on portal without even requiring to use any password. So with this, we totally remove the whole risk of MFA being challenged or credential being stolen because we don't even have a password for you to steal. So let's take FIDO for example. When you want to use a FIDO to log into your single sign-on portal, all you have to do is type in your username, plug in the hardware token, click a single button, that's it. No password being involved. All the authentication backend are using certificates and it is so much more secure than just password itself. And of course, QR code is similar. Click on the single sign-on portal, put in your username. You got a prompt for QR code. Unlock your mobile phone with Face ID, biometrics, or your PIN. Point the camera to it, and voila, you got logged into all your system. And single sign-on portal working with passwordless is even greater because Securid, at least, we allow you to work with integrations that does not out of the box support passwordless. For example, you can see here Git. Git does not support out of box passwordless, but they support SAML integrations. So by integrating Git to our single sign-on portal and logging in from our single sign-on portal using passwordless, you can access to Git without keying in any password. Hence, you achieve passwordless for something that you can't even, it is not even out of box supported. And that's the fantastic place of, that's the fantastic reason of single sign-on portal and uses passwordless. And that is the end for my sections. I will hand over to Charles to talk about what is a trusted, how does a trusted identity platform should cover, and also the end-to-end identity access management for today and for your future. Over to you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Kevia. And I hope everyone that's seeing this on Facebook Live gets a better understanding of authentication and what it means by securing identities. I'm gonna post after this at the PixPro under the comments. If anybody is interested to see how weak a password is, Jimmy Kimmel went out to the streets in the United States and interviewed a few people, right? And the YouTube video that is that I'm going to post is called "What's Your Password?" And this was just done as recent as 4 years ago, where cyber attacks was already on the high. And you'd see that people were giving out their passcodes and passwords easily, even through a 2 or 1 minute interview session with them. So, you know, it's a very interesting video. I'll like everyone to, you know, take a look at it. I'm going to post the link to the YouTube video after this session. But I think what's more important is, well, today we talked about just the authentication piece. identity and access management as a whole is a much broader topic, right? Yes, authentication is important, it's one part of it. But it also encompasses not only technologies, but also policies and what you do as an organization with, ensuring the right hygiene is in place, right? Because if you don't have the right policies, you then not have, even if you have the best tools in the world, you will not be able to secure your identities in whatever form you want to secure them, right? And that's the reason why some of these larger organizations still do get breached and credentials still do get stolen because they do not have the policies and then subsequently not have the technology support those policies, right? And this becomes very, very important, especially when you are forming your identity roadmaps or trying to secure your identities. And even personally, in my own personal life, when I look at my identity and how I manage my identities, I take the same philosophy. I have a baseline to say, okay, my policy is that I will never mix my work passwords or passcodes or passphrases, like 𝐓𝐨 mentioned, with my personal passphrases. Why? Because should any one of those get breached, I don't want it to compromise my work and vice versa, right? So something that I use personally as well, I use something called a password manager, because again, like 𝐓𝐨 mentioned, on average, even within an organization, an enterprise user has to remember 21 different passwords. Can you imagine you add on your personal life, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitters, you'd just be overwhelmed, right? So what I'm going to say is that identity management and identity and access management is more than just authentication. You need to look at those policies that support it as well. So those are just my closing thoughts, and thank you very much. I'm handing it over back to VP Mia and VP Sheila.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, 𝐓𝐨. I just realized, it's true what Press Ace mentioned earlier, that this is fundamental, and that we really should talk about it and learn more about it, because it's the first step actually, right? And all of us can be very vulnerable. And maybe I'm just coming from because those who are tech savvy and who are in IT will they're probably familiar with what we talked about, the MFA, right? But for those watching today who are not into IT, and of course they have their emails, they have their Gmail account, that's personal email, they have banking applications, right? They have multiple passwords as well. And this actually happened to me before, right? Because I try to have or to keep passwords different for each of the applications that I use. And for those who are, like, for example, and for the senior citizens, for example, and if they receive an MFA notification and they don't know about it, so what can you suggest that they do, or what can you advise to them?
Great question, Wikipedia. So this is my personal advice to anyone, and it's not just authentication, right? I would say, we all are busy with our work schedules, and sometimes we are in meetings. But always take a pause. Always take a pause before you click on whatever it is, right? So sometimes it comes in through WhatsApp. People just ignore it, or sometimes there's a push notification, people just ignore it and just say yes, right? But be very, very aware of what you're agreeing to. So always take a pause, always look at what you're agreeing to, because it's just like when you sign any contract, right? You will always want to look at the fine prints. But somehow, you know, in the digital world, in the mobile world, people don't look at the fine things. People just click on links, right? So I would say, please take a pause and just, you know, just look at what you're clicking on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Charles,
and
Mia, just
Yes,
I'd like
President.
to jump in. I'd like to go to that point about the topic today being very fundamental, right? And although Charles and KV are here, are representing a product and a platform, if you listen to them intently since they started a while ago, it was less about that actually. It was more about what we call the non-technology side of the issue. So they also covered, in fact, more than the technology, they covered much of the ground on the triad of people, process, technology, and they're talking more about people and process. So for example, when you talk about people, it goes back again. I keep saying the word fundamental, but this behooves our companies and our organizations to be able to understand the fact that in any business or in any organization, when you run it, if you have to hook up to the internet or if you have to interconnect your devices, the people operating this have to be first educated and trained. Okay? No amount of high technology will protect you if your people are not educated and trained. Now we go back to the added layer of protection, which is the process aspect. And Xavier covered this very well when he talked about having, for example, policies for any eventuality. And I like what he said. No, it's very basic, that it's almost counterintuitive when he said that, you know, if your systems fail, lock out everyone, then start bringing them in after you have verified and you know that they are trusted entities, as opposed to when everything fails, bring in everyone. Oh no, that's dangerous. That's a catastrophe waiting to happen. So I really like that aspect of the discussion a while ago. And by the way, when we started, we were just numbering about 40 listeners. We just grew to almost 60 right now. So for the benefit of those who were not able to tune in earlier to the discussion of Charles and Xavier, our topic today is about securing your digital identities. But more than talking about their platforms, they're talking about what are the basics here. So basically, they cover the concepts of passphrases, the concept of a security policy involving identity and access management. They, for example, and I like this concept very well because we implement the same thing in our company. You know, life cycle management of accounts, for example. It's very, very simple. You have joiners, movers, and leavers. You have to be able to handle them. If somebody joins in, minimum credentials, as low as credentials that they need to be able to function in their job. If they move, again, their functions will now differ. So you cannot assume that it is safe to give them the same access. Their access must be attuned to the new roles that you have been assigning to them. But definitely, when they leave, the moment they leave, the access, if not totally deprived, at least the access should be, if it were at the minimum, it's less now than minimum, right? So those are very, should I say, low-tech solutions, right? They don't actually talk about a actual technology solution. They're just talking about sound policy. So they also covered, for example, the topic of Mfa fatigue. And this is where I wanted to ask Xavier, Xavier having experience as an SIEM analyst. This really intrigued me because the methodology hinges on the ability of a hacker to, to tire you, hence the name
Yes.
MFA fatigue. But in your experience, Xavier, is this more likely the methodology of lone hackers or independent individuals, or are these more the techniques or tactics of advanced persistent threats?
Well, this is quite a new cybersecurity threat that has arisen. So right now, what we see, actually, this MFA bombing was done by a very famous attacker group called 𝐓𝐨𝐝𝐿. So they are a group, but well, right now this idea is out there. I'm sure more the lone wolves is gonna like follow them because it's effective, it works. So well, now at this point, it is still a big hacking group that is using them. But I'm sure as time passes by, more lone wolves is gonna use them, and so it's more important for users to aware, like what Charles said, stop, take a moment to see what you're clicking, what you're approving. Is this something that you requested, or is just out of the blue an SMS OTP sent in? You just click on the link. Because just to some point, in Singapore, there's a lot of banks hacking users or customers, banking account got cleared off or money got transferred out just because they simply click on a link on an SMS. So like Charles said, stop, pause. Before you click on something, think of it. Just like the MFA fatigue, before you click on anything, think, did you do anything to trigger an MFA responses? So if you think, just take that moment to think a while, regardless of lone wolf or a big cybersecurity attacking group, they are, I wouldn't say totally secure, but at least you're exposed to a lesser risk.
Before I go back to Sheila and Mia, I was also intrigued a while ago by the shift from the attention to strong passwords to passphrases. Passphrases which don't necessarily look very complicated, but are actually more or are actually stronger than passwords, right? And it brought me to an article which not an article actually, but an advisory from CISA, and they were talking about random phrases, because distinguishing between one passphrase to another is as simple as a passphrase which, if you know one of the words there, you can actually figure out the rest of the phrase. Like, for example, a quick brown fox, because it's a very famous kids rhyme. Then you figure out one of the words, you figure out the fast phrase already, as opposed to putting together, let's say, 3 random words which are not related or unrelated to each other, which will make for a strong passphrase, as opposed to something like a quick brown fox jumped over the whatever. So yeah. So again, I bring you back to Mia and Sheila.
Yes, thank you, Pres. Actually, we have a lot of comments in our Facebook. First, I would like to say hello to Ben Izra, Sir Bobet, and Koya J. Hi. Now, Mr. Chair would like to highlight, he said, trust no one. I think he likes that, Xavier. And hi to Marvin and 7 Hosting PH also. We have Vien. She mentioned zero tolerance, trust no one. So I guess everyone likes that. Now, we have a question here, which is from Ben Izra. So he's asking, is FIDO the next generation MFA? Will it catch on? How do you recover from a lost FIDO? Which is, I think, the same question from Rosario and a lot of other people in Facebook. Would you like to address that, Xavier?
Sorry, I was muted. So that question has a few layers. Let's just start from the first one. Will FIDO key be the future as a method of MFA? Actually, FIDO key, not only they can replace or can act as a secondary authentication methods like an MFA, FIDO 2 specifically, they can be replacing your password as a primary. So we do see that the market, we have a big trend moving to FIDO or using something called passwordless, and FIDO is one of the standards that supports them. Charles, back me up if you have anything to add in. Yes.
No, no, and 𝐬𝐿 is exactly right. So we sit in the FIDO community, and we lead the FIDO community, given our heritage in the identity and management space. And we definitely see a lot of advantages in FIDO, right? And I would say, yes, we think that FIDO is the future because organizations, including ourselves, are trying to do away with passwords because it's probably the least secure method of authentication. Right?
Yeah, but how do we recover from a loss?
𝐬𝐿, yeah.
FIDO. Mm.
Oh, well, if you lost a devices, the only thing we can tell you is replace them with a new one and try not to lose it because it's not cheap.
Yeah. So best practices, even in the old days where people used to use hardware tokens, unfortunately recovering a token or even a FIDO device, it's you even if you find it, you may not want to use it because you wouldn't know whether that particular token has been tampered with. Not about the RSA tokens because it's tamper proof, but even whatever tokens you have, right? So best practice is even if you recover it, do not use it. Deprovision it away from the systems, get a new replacement, use a new one, right?
Okay, thank you.
Sheila, Mia, I'd like to jump into this question. It's a very good one.
Yes,
It's
President.
from Stuart Go Roa. Either Charles or Javier can answer this. Wouldn't SSO or password managers result to a bigger risk for threats, since this entails a single point of failure for login? And that's from our chat
I'll
box.
take that portion first.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, single sign-on uses a single identity and you have all the applications inside there. So, again, it is always verified, trust no one. You cannot just rely on just credentials. You need to have a machine learning backend that automatically matches or instantaneously in real time, validate each and every single authentication request and matches them with known attack patterns to ensure that your authentication is indeed you come in, and then with all the MFA challenges.
Sorry, 𝐬𝐿, you were referring to this a while ago in the intelligent risk engine,
yes,
correct?
Precisely.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Yep, no worries. Yes, you need to have a risk engine to analyze all the authentication and establish identity confidence. Whether are you a high-risk user? If you are high risk, I'm gonna challenge you with more layers. Instead of just using push, now I want you to put in biometrics. If you want to even further, let's have an SMS OTP into it before I let you to go in. So over here, instead of just MFA with just a 3-layer, we add 4th layer, 5th layer, or even if we totally don't trust you at all, we can configure it to use a FIDO key because FIDO key need your physical presence to click on a button. So that's how we protect the single sign-on portals. And for password manager, I will hand it to Charles.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this, right? I'm gonna say this. Security is not unfortunately cybersecurity is not a one solution silver bullet that solves all problems, right? Cybersecurity unfortunately is a multi-layered, right? So yes, you have single sign-on, that's one layer of protection, but like 𝐬𝐿 mentioned, you need to have that, best practice to have that risk engine behind analyzing, using machine learning to analyze what are the patterns, are there abnormal behaviors. There's also another layer where you still implement your multi-factor authentication, right? Because if it's a risky authentication request, you want to challenge the authentication request. Similarly for password managers, yes, there's always the risk that password managers get breached, right? But and that's the reason why I say that passwords itself is not sufficient. You need to have passwords, you need to have a multi-factor authentication and a combination of these things to protect yourself overall, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Charles. By the way, there's a comment here from Vien Ora, And yes, definitely, Bien, this was covered by our speakers a while ago. She was saying that if you use or consider going to MFA, security awareness training has still got to be a big part of your overall
Definitely.
security defense. Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
We have so many
yeah,
questions,
go ahead,
Press.
Mia. Yes.
We have so many
And-
comments. Actually,
I know.
I think it's a
and
very
Press is-
interesting topic.
And
Yes,
Press is,
Charles.
I'll just like to add on to that, and I like your
Yeah.
comment, right? Because the biggest failure in cybersecurity, unfortunately, happens between the seat and the keyboard, right? And that's the human being.
The shortest distance to a breach is the
Yes.
keyboard.
Verizon say it's
and the user.
82%.
Right. Yeah.
That's
But
a key
Charles,
figure right there.
yes, and Xavier, I think this is also related to the question of Rogen. For most businesses, the common dilemma is that the customers complain because, they are saying that MFA creates friction, right? So the question of Rogen is, how do we deal with the end user which prefers user experience or convenience versus security, which is protection? What's your
The
take on
eternal
this?
struggle. The eternal struggle between.
I love this question. I love that
Yeah.
question because that question comes up all the time, right? How do you
All the
balance
time.
security and user convenience, right? So I'll start first, and based on years of experience working, not only in the identity space, but in all of cybersecurity. I think the fundamental question that organizations first have to ask themselves is, who do you want to protect? What do you want to protect? And where do you want to protect? Right? Because, and I said this, just before in the closing, is the policies and the business always matters first, right? Because if you understand what policies you're going to put in place, what you need to protect, and who you want to protect most, then you will have the appropriate technologies to put in place. So in relation to that question, if let's say somebody's implementing a multi-factor authentication solution, great, right? You should have different people in the organization and different personas so that you can say, oh, the system administrators, I want it to be a more stringent type of authentication, right? Not a multi-factor authentication. I want a multi-factor authentication, but I want them to use the traditional hardware tokens because we know it can't be breached. We know it's all fail-safe, right? Versus your traditional common users, you probably want to just allow them to use multi-factor authentication. They can use push notification biometrics because it's convenient. We'll allow them to do that. Your president, because he's the most important person, you want to have him protected, and yet you want to provide him the convenience. FIDO may be the way to go, right? So again, first build out your personas, understand your policies, and then put in the necessary technologies and authentication mechanisms to support that, right? And Kevin, happy for you to add on, right?
Oh well, I mean, this is indeed a question everyone asks every time, every single time in every engagements. If you look at it, right, is our modern authentication a more friction kind of methods? Not necessary, because passwordless is so much more convenience than entering a very long password, right? And like I mentioned, with Risk Engine, you are not always going to be challenged if your patterns, your authentication patterns that matches every day, like you wake up 9 a.m., you log into that field portal until 6 p.m., the machine learning is going to remember you, and then your subsequent authentication could be getting even easier because the system recognizes this is one of your behavior, and well, you are a low-risk user. Perhaps at some point, as if you are an IT admin, that you allows them, you can even don't challenge them. I mean, I don't recommend that, but if you really want convenience too much, that is what you can go with. Or you can just simply go with a push to approve. Push to approve is very simple, just click one button, that's it. Compared to the good old-fashioned just username password, you get much more security, but you don't jeopardize too much of your security. And of course, when things like you want to access some very credentials or very crucial, very important sensitive data, then those scenarios you can't allow convenience. You will have to let the user to be more challenged with more security component. But those are the applications or solutions that you don't always access. So like Charles say, you have to know what you want to protect, what is the things that you want to achieve, and balance them out.
Okay,
VP
before
Sheila.
VP Sheila and
Yes.
VP Mia
Yeah, I
release
hate it.
us with the time. Go ahead, VP Sheila.
Yes, I actually gave the floor to you guys because this has been a product I've been selling for a long time before I transferred to Archer, right?
Okay.
But I probably want to raise this question to Charles because we've been talking about how fundamental, how foundational identity management is. But we all know that still a lot of companies do not implement it. And since time immemorial, identity is still the #1 attack vector.
Yeah.
So what are your insights, and are companies now embracing it? Because as I remember, Charles, now back in 2020 when the pandemic started, I was surprised that so many big companies don't have MFA and they have to roll out VPN access. So that's why I was really surprised because I thought only medium-sized, small companies don't have it, but it seems like even the top corporations in the Philippines and probably globally have not implemented something like this. So
And
what are your
VP
thoughts
Sheila,
around this? And is it changing? Yes, VP
right?
Mia.
And VP Sheila, just to add on that, because if at all they are, the TOR I usually remember states, is fail open available, right? It's always part of the requirement. So what can you say about that?
Okay, so I guess there's two questions here, right? So I'll answer Sheila's question, and Sheila, thanks for raising that question, right? Because it is true, and you were with me in 2020, and we saw, and we were shocked, right, when the world suddenly had to embrace the largest work from home. I would even say pilot or test. And many organizations were scrambling to get multi-factor authentication, right? I would say 2 years down the road, right now, yes, there are still organizations that still have not implemented multi-factor authentication, but I won't say it will be the large or the top organizations. I would say, it's come down to maybe the tier 2 enterprises and maybe sometimes even the tier 3 enterprises, right? And it's starting to filter its way downwards. So people are getting more aware that identity and securing their identities is important. But having said that, many people are still ignorant, especially at the tier 2 enterprises and the tier 3, as to why they should implement good hygiene in securing identities, i.e. multi-factor authentication.
Charles, I'm sorry. Could you please clarify to us? We have a different term here, I think, in the Philippines as to the classification of companies. Can you explain to us what tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 companies are?
Right. So the tier 1 companies, in our definition are, employee sizes that are typically about 10,000 and above, or maybe a revenue turnover of above $2 million.
The large enterprises.
The large enterprises.
Large enterprises. Okay. And then tier 2?
The tier two are probably people that are maybe about 2,000 to 5,000 employee sizes, or revenues that are about $1 million, thereabouts, right? And then tier 3 is medium-sized businesses, and then tier 3 is everybody else that's under that.
Micro to small. Micro to small.
Micro to small.
Okay, all right. So those are our terms actually. So, additional into fact, everyone. So in Singapore, it's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Here in the Philippines, it's large enterprises, medium enterprises, and micro and small enterprises.
I see. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Press Ace for clarifying that. That's good, right? So like I say, a lot of people in the medium and small enterprises or the micro enterprises are still very ignorant to the fact, right? VP Mia, on your question about the fail open, it was a very easy way out. It was a very easy way out, to be honest with you. People wanted fail open because if all else fails, if the cloud fails, go back to passwords. But how secure is that, right? And that's the reason why even until today, while cloud has matured a fair bit, we always tell people do not be 100% reliant on a cloud, even for your authentication, right? Especially if you are running a critical business and you're using multi-factor authentication that's critical to your business, we always propose for you to have a hybrid. In fact, most organizations are right now starting to embrace a hybrid rather than a full cloud, right? People are starting to pull back because they realize that they cannot be 100% dependent on the cloud. We never know when the telephone lines will get cut. We never know when the internet cables will get cut. It happens. It happened before. It will still happen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Charles and Xavier. It's past 6 already. Unfortunately, we cannot answer all the questions and we cannot read all the comments. There's just a lot. I guess, VP Sheila, this deserves a part 2, right?
Yes,
Maybe we
definitely.
can have another session to talk about this. A lot of people are interested. But for today, VP Sheila, you have any announcements on your side?
Yeah, so actually I'll give the announcement to Press Ace. I leave it to him. But I would just like to thank Charles and Xavier and the whole Secure ID team, because they are the latest technology partner who signed up with PixPro. And again, our advocacy is really raising the awareness. So I'm really glad that a lot of people asked questions and interacted with us through our Facebook streaming. So thank you again for joining us in our advocacy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank-
The pleasure is us.
Thank you, VP Sheila, and thank you, VP Mia. Before I proceed to the announcements, I'd also like to say this about Secure ID. So if you were listening a while ago, if you're not yet sure where you are in your identity and access management journey, there's really something for you, whether you are a small to medium business or you're a large enterprise. Secure ID has various offerings for you, and they know exactly where to come in. As I was listening to Charles and Xavier a while ago, I just realized that probably those companies which they would call in Singapore level 1, level 2, level 3 will probably have corresponding points of their journey towards securing their digital identities. So if you're not sure where you are, maybe you could have a sit down or a call with Charles and Xavier. Maybe they have something for you, because I definitely know they have something for you wherever you are in that IAM journey. Having said that, we would like to invite everyone, for you who are near the Calamba, Laguna area, we have our first ever PixPro golf tournament on Monday. So that's May 30, and it's golf for a good cause. We have already identified scholars who will be sending for training, to cybersecurity training, and we have organizations and schools especially who will benefit from the equipment that shall be donated. So please support us, as Secure ID has been supporting us just recently. So they are just one of the many who have put their trust on PixPro to help us spread the good news of cybersecurity. Because guys, you have to remember, the bad guys out there are getting together. The good guys must get together as well, as our chairman would always say. So we'd like to thank again Charles and Xavier for dealing with this very, very important topic. I always say the word fundamental because it is indeed a fundamental issue, how you secure your identities in cyberspace. So hopefully Sheila will be able to arrange another session for us with Secure ID, hopefully on the same topic or a similar topic in the near future. So I turn you over to our main host, VP Mia. Once again, Charles and Xavier, thank you very much. We enjoyed this session this afternoon. VP Mia.
Thank you, Press Ace. Once again, Charles and Xavier, thank you so much. Like we always say, like Mr. Chair would always, say, in cybersecurity, walang weekend.
There's no
Sorry,
weekend,
mali
just
ako.
happy.
Just,
Well,
wala kasi si Mr.
in
Chair.
Filipino, yeah, in
Right.
Filipino we say happy lang, walang weekend, which in English is we're just happy because we have no weekend.
Right.
I like that. I like that.
Cybersecurity for you.
phrase.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you,
cybersecurity for
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Have a great
Thank you,
day.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
weekend.